So last time we finished creating this design system that you can see here, and it's not complicated. We just have our primary brand colors, which is the sort of this teal mint color and this pink color right here. So today when we continue with designing, and when we actually starting by designing the navbar. One thing I forgot last time is under color styles, I will have to change this from pink 500 to 600, which is something I forgot. Now we can just continue creating our design. We're gonna start by creating a new page. I'm gonna call this designs, or let's just call it design for now. So in this page, this will be our primary page for designing the whole landing page. So I'm gonna start by just going into the frames, right? I will click F, and you can see under desktops, I have desktop, which is the default 1440 by 1024 pixel uh, size frame, and I'm just going to click it and this will appear here. Here I'm just going to call it landing desktop. You can also call it landing 1440p, landing whatever. You can also call it home. Uh, you can also obviously just call it whatever you want here. The name doesn't really matter, but you have to stay consistent. Whatever naming convention you use here throughout your design file, you should be using that. Okay, so let's start. I like to start from the background color. I want to use a darker background color, and that means I don't want this to collide with the background of Figma. So obviously I'm not going to go full white because I don't want to hurt your eyes, but I'm just going to go something like this here, which is a lighter gray, so that's our borders here are clearly visible. So okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start by taking this color and I'm gonna apply a color style to it. I'm gonna call this our gray 100. The reason I'm calling this gray and not black is because it is actually not black. So we would be having a black color and a white color. The black color would be full black and the white color would be full white. But the grays are all of them in between. And as we discussed previously, this 100 indicates that this gray is pretty dark. It is actually the darkest you could go. So I'm gonna create this color style. And obviously, since we have created that color style, we have to go back to the colors here and to the branding, and we have to apply that. Now, what I'm going to do is, let's take this down. I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply the color gray 100 here, and I'm going to give it a stroke. For the stroke, I'm just going to give it, okay, not that one. Actually, we want to give a stroke for the color alone. And for this stroke, I'm going to make it something like this for now, just barely visible. We'll have to deal with this color next time. Uh, so here in regards to the stroke, what I want to do is I want to set this up properly. So I don't want these colors to mix. So these are our brand colors, but this currently is just a black default color. So I'm just going to group this into the brand colors. Actually, what I want to do is I want to separate them even further. So this is just a basic gradient, uh, and I want to put these top down. Okay. So this column will be for our gradients. This will be for our mint colors. This will be for our pink colors, and this will be for our grays. Great. So let's just align this perfectly here. Okay, great. Good progress. I would like to change this to be gray 100 instead of pink 600 here. Okay, now at this point, we can just select everything here and we can just change the fill to be gray 100 since we already got that color. Now you can see we also have some white and some grayish colors. We're going to be dealing with that when the time comes, but for now I'm just going to keep it like this. One thing is I want to go back here and I want to apply our variable. So when we now have the white colors, we're going to be coming back here and dealing with that. Okay, so yeah, so today we want to work on the navbar. Now, I'm not going to be finishing the navbar today because most of the time your navbar depends on your hero section. So that has so many additional factors, your hero sections, that will affect the navbar. So once we go into the hero section, we will change it up. No, I'm not sure if we will actually do that. I'm not sure if we will change it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to create a navbar that I think is suitable. And after we create the hero section, probably in the next video, we're going to be looking back at the navbar and see if there are changes that need to be made so that we can finish it. So how do we start? We start, a navbar has basically three parts. Always, every navbar should have three parts. The first one will be the identity, the second one would be the links, and the third one will be the call to action. Let's start from the identity, right? So first I'm going to go to the system here, actually the branding here, and I'm going to copy this logo, which is, as you can see with the purple outline, it is actually a component. So I'm just going to copy it, go back to the design here, and paste it right here. Okay. Yeah, so now I want to get in the name. We cannot just leave your logo and call it a day. You need your name. The reason for that is, as long as you're not like a very established brand like Google, Apple, uh, people won't really know you through your logo alone. Even if you're like a huge brand, I think having the name there is valuable for maybe some people don't have much knowledge of your company. So we're just going to be adding the name here. It's going to be Web Studio. Okay. And obviously we don't want it to be this big. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to be moving sizing here. Yeah, I'm going to go with an auto heights, line heights, 0 letter spacing. This is basically the default. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to go with 16 pixels of size. One thing I want to do here is I want to go with the default. Okay. That looks much better, I think. So now, since we have this, we have to make these two elements proportional. Now this is currently too big, so I'm going to go with around 40 pixels here. And 40 pixels again seems too big, so I'm just going to go with 32. And I want to see how this will look, but I think it is still a bit too big, so I'm going to go with a width of 40 and maybe a height of 24. Rounded it. I'm going to round this down here. Yeah, and I think this is a good size, but what I'm going to try to do is maybe go 18 pixels here, which might work, which is an interesting size. We might come back to that, but I think 16 pixels is the good baseline I want to follow, and I want to increase this to 36, so around 26 heights, 36 width. So I think this is kind of proportional. I'm just eyeballing it for now. There isn't really any metric I'm using for this. I'm just trying to figure out the proportionality. Like your eyes, as a designer, you have to trust your eyes. Like your eyes are your biggest weapon. Not everything has a principle, a rule, steps. Your eyes are very important in that process of designing because naturally we are trained to see what is visually appealing and not. So trust your eyes. Obviously, that doesn't mean throw away all measurements. For example, I like to use standard measurements. For example, for my gaps, I'll always use the rules of multiples of 6 and 8, which are just basically using numbers which are highly divisible. And those are numbers which are most of the time multiples of 6 and 8. For example, here, I'm going to be using 8. So 8 pixel gap here looks good to me. And I'm going to call this now the identity. So the identity is the part of the navbar where you are showing your brand, your company, where you are, where the user knows which website they are currently on. So we're going to be moving on to the links, and I'm going to have a couple of links here. Home, let's start from there. I always like to have a home link. I know it's not like too popular nowadays, but having a home is studied to have better user experience, because there is always an option for the user to get back to the starting point of your website. Obviously, you can, on most websites, you can click this part, the identity, to get back, but it's not good to assume that the user would know that system. But if you have like a clear home button, then that will be very much more effective. Okay, so home. Uh, so maybe we can have an about. What else could we have? We could have portfolio or projects. Projects. Since this is a web design studio here, projects and uh, maybe services. Services pricing. Maybe if you have additional products, you can include it here, products, right? So I know like some web design studios sell products like web templates and stuff like that. So if you have that, I think this is the best place to put it. Now, what I want to do is I want to create a separation. Now, currently, this is the landing page, obviously. So in the landing page, we are currently on the home page. Since we are on the home page, the rest of the links should be like in a different style to indicate that we are currently here in the Webflow process. So I'm going to select all of them here, and I'm just going to give them a pretty dim color here. I don't want to go something like this where there is clearly no contrast. I want there to be enough contrast, but I want them to have, and actually, I think we already have that color. So we can go here, 9D. We can just take that. And I think you can see now there's clear separation between the links, meaning the user will probably know where they are currently, which is the home. Now I'm going to decrease the size to 14, and I'm going to put them inside of an auto layout. And here I want there to be enough sufficient spacing, so I'm going to go with 14 pixels. Again, you can see that the rule of 8 and 6 are being followed. 40 is actually just 8 times 5, right? So since it is 8 times 5, it does follow that rule. Okay. The reason actually this rule works is because 8 and 6 multiples are very divisible. Like when you look at 40, it is divisible by 2, by 5, by 8, by 4, and it is very much, it makes it easier for you to work in a grid system, in a grid layout where there are so many grids and you have to separate your content into parts, and this being divisible just makes that easier. That's a bit advanced. We don't need to worry about that currently. We can just call this links and we move on. Yeah, so as you can see, like so far it's very simple. We haven't really done anything major. We didn't do any breaking thing. We're just following basic principles like good contrast, separation of content, visual hierarchy. Like your content should be there, and we're just following good content. Now, I might want to experiment here with going with bold, and that doesn't look bad, but I think I'm gonna keep it in the regular, or should I? Okay, when stuff like this happens, what I like to do is I want to duplicate this, and I want to change this. So let's just see how this works. I think this works much better because like it is clear that you are showing your identity, the website's identity, in a very clear manner. And actually this takes the actual text to be much closer to the logo size. So I think I like that much more. and it is much more prominent with a higher visual hierarchy. And this is good generally for your branding. If people really look at your text, your content, I think that will just benefit your branding overall. So what we can do here is we can go in and just take the color, and this is still a gray, but I think it's more of a lighter gray. So I'm going to go with around 600, just barely 600 here. And now since we have done that, we can just go back and apply that for all of the colors. Now I'm going to go to the system here, duplicate this. I'm going to take these two, put them inside of a frame, put them side by side. This will be our gray colors, right? So now I'm going to go from the lightest to darkest, or vice versa. I'm going to actually go from darkest to lightest here. So this will be the gray 600. And yeah, actually, let's change this. This should be 111, 111. And this one, I believe this should be 90, 90, and 90. Okay. So now we're going to take this and change this color to be the gray 600. And I'm going to remove the stroke here, since it is clearly visible. Okay, great. So our system, as you can see, is growing, and I don't really want to use too many colors, but I'm just going to try to keep it very much to the colors we need. So I'm going to go select everything here, and I'm going to apply our color here. Okay, now let's go back to the branding as well. Do we have any? Yeah, so okay. Now let's go back to our design, and you can see we have started using whites here. So I'm going to select the whites, and I'm just going to create a color style for it. I'm going to call it whites. Simple. There isn't white 100, 900 because there is only whites and black, and in between them there are the grays. So select everything and apply the white color properly. And let's go to the system here. Again, select everything. Go to the system and go to whites. Apply this color. Okay. Great. So we just need to go to the branding now. Take everything and white. Great. So now our colors are being set up correctly. Now we would want to follow along with creating our call to action, our button, our primary call to action here. And that's, I use very simple buttons. There isn't really something too special you have to do. We're going to be looking into creating more effective and more interesting buttons, but for navbars, I like to use like minimal buttons because I don't really like navbars taking too much of the space on the screen. So we're just going to be using a call to action for just contact, right? So contact, or yeah, let's just say contact us. So that would be the text, and this doesn't need to be this big. Again, I'll just auto hides, and I'm gonna go with 16 pixels here, the same size as this one, and regular here. And let's remove the styling of the text sizes. I want to go bold here as well, since you're already using that. Let's put this inside of a frame and also layout. I'm going to call this our primary button. Primary BTN. So quite simply, we just need a background color, okay? Now, this background color, what should it be? Now, you can't really select something random. You have to make sure that it is one of your primary colors. Now, look if I use this, okay? I'm using the mint here, and I really don't like it. First of all, let's finish the styling before we talk about that actually. So there won't be any gaps, 32, 16. And this padding, this actually comes from the concept that your horizontal padding on the buttons should be 2 times or at least bigger than your vertical padding. That's because that creates the idea of a button on our head, because you are already trained on that. Most of the websites use it, so we already know this to be true. So yeah, now look at this. This color does not work at all. The reason I select this color here is as an accent color. It's not as the primary color. An accent color is not meant to be used like for buttons and stuff like that. It's just meant to be used sparkled in on some points to support the primary color. So I'm not going to be using that here. Instead, I'm going to be just applying the the pink color. And for the pink, I'm going to use a black color here for the text. Here, black. Okay. Now there are 2 options here. Let's duplicate it. You can either use full black, or what you can do is you can go to the pink and actually select a very dark pink type. So obviously both of them work. They have enough contrast. You can actually look at the contrast levels here, and both of them do adhere to the contrast rules. So I'm just going to remove this, but I'm going to keep the black one just to keep the colors to a minimum. Feel free to experiment and use whatever color you want. Okay, so contact us here. I'm gonna try to use this with just regular text. And you can see like it does not stand out as much as it should. Like this is a button. This is a primary call to action. It's very important. So it should stand out quite a bit. I'm gonna be using this. Now one thing to note here is we need our black color. Black here. Okay. And we do not apply that actually. Actually, I'm gonna call this lightness. So I'm gonna call this lightness, and we're gonna be going from black to white. Okay, so let's apply the white here since we already had it. So it would be FFF. Okay, and for the black, it should be 0000000. And this should be black here, and it should be black. And here it should be white. And again, this just have to be changed to white. Actually, just the box should be changed to white. And you can see how we're going from the darkest to the lightest. Okay, and also you can see we are from black to white, and in between we are going from 100 to 600. And for example, if this color had all the lightness values, we would go from 100, 200, 300, and at the middle, actually more just over to the lightest side, this color will appear because it's 600. But for the mint, for example, it would be right at the middle because it's 500. Okay. Now we have our button, and I'm just going to station it right here. Now there are so many unique layouts you can follow for your navbar. There are so many creative ways of including so many different elements, so many different layouts, animations, interactions. But I wanted to start this course from something relatively simple and conventional. So I'm not really going to be doing anything too much with the navbar. It's going to be just a simple navbar. So how do we create that simple navbar? We just have to create a frame around it. And I'm going to call this frame the navbar. Okay. Now for this navbar, I'm going to create a layout grid with 12 columns here. This layout grid will just be used in our design system generally, so that we know how to position our elements in a way that keeps the distribution of content sane. So we won't be positioning something like this or something like this. It should be centered, right? And we're going to be using this layout grid. Now, the reason I'm using 12 columns layout grid is because we won't really have too much of like content. It's not content heavy. Like I use 16 and 12. And should we use 16 or 12 here actually? I want to be using 12. I use 16 when I'm creating something like a dashboard, a UI with so many interactions. But for landing pages and just user facing pages like landing pages, blogs, I like to use 12 because there's typically not as much content there. Also gap should be also here, so it resizes. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this. I actually don't like to work with these layout grids as much, so I'm gonna be dragging them here. So I used Shift R to make the rulers visible, and I'm just positioning them here. So now we can go back and just remove or just hide the column grids, and here you can see that we can use our rulers just to position it. Great, so now we have our centered text with equal distribution from the right and left, or left or right actually. So now the only thing we need is to focus on the spacing or negative space field. I'm just going to remove this one. Now you can see that this is stuck to the top, and that is not good. There isn't really anything separating this from the top, and that's bad negative space usage. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go here and give it a horizontal padding of around 16 pixels. Now this is quite enough to just give enough breathing room here, enough breathing room so that the content doesn't feel stuck to the top. Uh, and at the end, this is our navbar. Now, you can do so many things to the navbar, as I said before. And there are so many layouts. For this, I'm going to be using such a layout where I take these two, and I'm going to call this actions. You can also call it the right-hand side or stuff like that. I'm going to call this actions because they are mostly the links. And 40 pixels, right? So equal spacing here between these links, they are 40 pixels and 40 pixels. I'm going to be considering the contact us button as part of the links, just with a higher visual hierarchy. The reason I'm doing this is because we only have one call to action. And since we have only one call to action, it doesn't really make sense to give it too much of the space right here. It is completely okay, but I like to do it this way because it saves space. Okay, now there are so many things we can experiment with, like maybe changing the corner radius to be 999 and making it fully rounded. That might be a better approach. It depends, right? So for now, I'm going to keep it like this because it's a very simple navbar. And that's like the idea of this course. I'm going to keep it very minimal, very simple. But as we go forward, I'm going to make it add complexity here. And we might want to be creating just more fun layouts, right? Again, there are in the system, our system is growing, but it's quite not enough. There are so many things we do not handle, like the corner radiuses, and the fonts, right? So what I would want to do here and what I would like to do is maybe try to create your own system for the fonts from this, as we did with the color so far. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next video and I'm going to finish off the system and the navbar. I'm going to edit the navbar just a bit, and also I'm going to be including a more uh, thorough system by adding the borders and stuff like that. Yeah, that will be our next video, and from the video next to that, we're going to be going into the hero section. I think that's quite enough for today. We created this very minimal, simple, but effective navbar. Really hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. We're going to be continuing with the design system next time.